About a year ago, I made a video for Shenmue 1, a game that I completed many years ago back on the Dreamcast and always thoroughly enjoyed. Its sequel, though, always eluded me. For one reason or another, I never got around to getting very far in it. I found its scale and its difficulty at the time was somewhat daunting for me. So around 15 years later, with the re-release of Shenmue 1 and 2 for PC, I knew it was time to finally play part 2 of this incredible story, and I am glad I waited, as I feel I can appreciate its intricacies much more than I would have back then. The story of Ryu Hazuki's journey to avenge his father continues, with a much larger world, and an incredible story of revenge grows even further in this incredible sequel, full of more characters, more locations, and some very interesting character development for Ryu. And to top it off, the voice acting is ever so slightly better. This is why you should play Shenmue 2. Disclaimer, if you would like to hear my thoughts on the first Shenmue without having to read my mind, then click the card on screen now to catch up. Once again, as before, I am using the 2018 re-release of Shenmue 2 for PC. As with the first one, there aren't really many improvements over the original, but with improved load times, performance and resolution, it's definitely worth picking up these re-releases. With that out of the way, let's jump in. Shenmue 2 begins about 3 weeks after the end of the first game. Ryu has travelled by boat from Japan to Hong Kong to continue his search for his father's murderer, Lan Di, a goal that has quickly consumed him with hatred since the start of his journey just a month or so prior. As Ryu steps into Hong Kong, everything seems more full of life and culture than the first game. Unfortunately, straight away the cutscenes start to ruin this. For some reason in this re-release, the screen looks like this during all cutscenes. It is horrible, and made me worry that the game may be ruined by this. Thankfully, with the help of the Shenmue community, a patch for PC to make the cutscenes full screen was made just a couple of months after release. Why Sega couldn't make this themselves is beyond me. I will leave a link in the description for it if you want to use it yourself, but unfortunately, this is not available to Xbox and PlayStation players, so watch out. Anyway, moving on to the game, this is very much a continuation of the Shenmue style, but greatly expanded. More minigames such as Afterburner and Outrun 2 arcade machines, the extremely difficult and physically painful arm wrestling one, more characters, and a much larger story make up this fantastic sequel. As you enter Hong Kong, Ryu is quickly robbed of his backpack, holding his money, items, and most importantly, the dragon mirror he found in Shenmue 1. This quickly leads to Ryu having to hunt down the thieving gang and leading him further into his journey. The gameplay is very similar to the first game, playing like a more interactive point-and-click style adventure game. You must ask around the city for information on the gang to find out where their hideout is and recover the mirror. What is amazing about Shenmue 2's gameplay is it's almost identical to the first game. It's just bigger, with more to do and see, and this time with even more of a focus on its great story, and a more realistic world. Small details like roadworks on certain days, more shops, and a city you can actually get lost in make this a much more immersive world. It feels like you are living Ryu Hazuki's life, and there is no other game that I feel quite matches that feeling. Another feature of the game is that it also pulls your save from Shenmue 1 and carries over the data, so that you can still access all of the moves you learned in the first game and the figures you collected. Thankfully, the game did receive some pacing improvements over the first as well. For example, you no longer have to wait in real time for specific timed events. So, if you need to wait until 7 PM that evening, you can just go to the location and a prompt will appear to skip time forward. This makes the game run much more smoothly and allows you to push on with the story at your own pace. After Ryu recovers his bag, he gets his items in the dragon mirror bag, but his money is completely gone, leaving him flat broke. A character known as Joy, who always enters a scene with this song playing to prove her badassery, helps Ryu to get a job. Ooh, more forklift truck driving, you'd think. Oh no, it's a lot worse than that.
Left.
Let's just... There we go. Mildly better. The forklift job in Shenmue 1, which, although not exactly thrilling, had a level of energy to it, even some mild enjoyment, and the occasional event was thrown in. This one, though, is pure agony. You have to QTE boxes across a room, which not only is pointless considering it's literally feet away, but thanks to this asshole making these noises every 2 damn seconds, it's like nails on a million chalkboards at once. I did this job out of necessity a few times before not being able to take it anymore, even with it muted. The pay is so shit, it just wasn't worth it. Unfortunately, crippling debt did catch up to me though, and I couldn't afford to pay for the hotel room, which I did actually get for free in the end. I couldn't afford capsule toys, maps, or anything. Until I discovered the magic of saving before you gamble. I went from flat broke to filthy, stinking rich in a very short amount of time. Damn, I wish reverting to a previous save was actually possible in real life. I would save the game, gamble as big of a bet as possible, and if I lost, simply reload the save. Keep doing this until you're rich and bam, money worries over. Afterwards, you quickly discover that the obsession with revenge that consumed Ryu in the first game has grown exponentially in the sequel. Ryu doesn't seem to realize the danger he is in, and starts putting himself in more dangerous situations than the first game, facing off against large-scale gangs and getting beaten in the process. By the time he reaches Hong Kong, he cares for nothing other than to find and take down Lan Di. However, his obsession becomes a hindrance once he meets the martial arts master known as Zhu Ying Hong, which I've probably butchered that name. She helps Ryu to understand the Four Wudu, a martial arts way of life in Shenmue. He learns their meanings, but seems to refuse to accept them, only learning them out of the need to gather more information from Zhu Ying to further his quest to find Lan Di. The game even has moments where you must repeat acts in order to better understand them, and quite brilliantly, whether this was done on purpose or not, these moments are frustrating and boring, making you want to push on just as much as Ryu would, giving you that feeling of obsession just like the character. Catching falling leaves from a tree multiple times, moving books around, cleaning walls, all tedious and ultimately not fun at all. But that is kind of the point. I think the director of Shenmue, Yu Suzuki, wants you to hate these moments, to push you to get through this area of the game and on to the action. Zhu Ying also shows Ryu how truly weak he currently is, and that if he were to fight Lan Di, he wouldn't stand a chance. Later, Ryu meets the leader of the local gang, Ren, who can guide him to the man who sent a letter to Ryu's father in the first game, Yonda Zhu. He decides to help Ryu in the promise of potential riches, and the pair leave for the strange, real-life city of Kowloon. Huge, rotting-looking buildings that look like they've been stuck together from other buildings make up this bizarre city. You spend around half of the game here, with a heavy focus on fights. Ryu frequently enters bigger and more difficult battles, and eventually meeting this giant fat guy known as Don Yu, who causes Ryu a lot of troubles throughout his time in Kowloon, and who is also in direct contact with the leader of the Chayu men, Lan Di. The constant intensity in Kowloon is an impressive change of pace for Shenmue. A traditionally slower game suddenly starts pushing you forward, and Ryu's character development moves on in an exciting way. He goes to desperate levels to gather more information, even ending up in a fight to the death with a street fighter to get access to Don Yu's building, a huge tower that Ryu has to fight his way through to the top to find Lan Di. We learn a lot more about him in this game, finding out that the reason Lan Di killed Ryu's father is because he believes that he murdered his father. This mirroring of stories between Lan Di and Ryu really makes you realize that the story is about both of them, and that they have very similar character arcs. Lan Di is just further on with his than Ryu. It really makes me curious as to where this story will end, especially when you add in the mystery of the dragon and the phoenix mirror and where this game ends. Kowloon really shows a strong gameplay style within Shenmue 2, even if some frustrating moments do derail the pace of the game at times, such as some awkward stealth moments and overuse of QTEs, such as this incredibly frustrating balance section that it feels like the director knew was terrible.
I ran down a tip from a snitch around here and got the key for the elevator.
The direction of the game really knows how to ramp up the tension though, with multiple fast-paced and more difficult QTEs than the first, and with one moment in particular in the tower, a personal favourite part of the game for me. You have a 5-minute countdown to kick down every door on that floor in order to find the key to the next area and fighting everyone you meet. The tension is through the roof, as there is no inclination as to where to go and you are at the mercy of luck. Exactly how Ryu would experience it. After all of this tension in Kowloon, Ryu travels to Guilin in the countryside, and one of the most bizarre endings to a game ever takes place. Not just in story, but in gameplay as well. This entire last area that runs for about 5 hours is basically a walking simulator, with absolutely no fights whatsoever, and getting to know a mysterious character called Shenmue. After all of the intensity of Kowloon, Guilin brings you and Ryu back down to earth, and gives Ryu the realization of the dangers he's put himself in. It ends the game on a surprisingly slower pace. Personally though, I wasn't too fond of the gameplay in this last section of the game. It just drags on for way too long, and although great in terms of storytelling, world building and character building, it just isn't engaging with repeated areas and gameplay mechanics. The ending of the story though is mind-blowing, and overall has me so damn excited for Shenmue 3. Overall, Shenmue 2, put simply, is incredible. There is no other game out there like this series, and Shenmue 2, at least so far, is the pinnacle of this genre. Interesting gameplay that crosses over puzzles, action, and a multitude of minigames make this world feel alive. It also has a fighting system that is still impressive 18 years after it was first made, and a story that has so much depth, intrigue, and character that I cannot think of any game that has surpassed it. Ultimately, quite a simple story of revenge that is told in such a unique way you cannot help but be compelled by it. Shenmue is still truly unique even 18 years later, and with Shenmue 3 very close to release now, the story will finally continue. Will Ryu find Lan Di? Will he kill him? Or will he be killed himself? And what of the Dragon and Phoenix mirrors? I cannot wait for Shenmue 3 to find out. This is a series that deserves a lot more praise and attention than it gets, and hopefully, the future of the series stays as bright as its history. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Phil, I was the creator of this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and to chat all things Shenmue. Please click the like button and subscribe, it really helps out the channel, and there is more videos like this every month. I will be covering Shenmue 3 as soon as I can, but while you wait, there is many more videos on the channel to check out, with a few of them on screen now. Until the next video everyone, thank you very much for watching.